Imagine the world 66 billion years ago, in the twilight of the Mesozoic era, during the late Cretaceous period. Back then, Earth was ruled by giant creatures. On land, massive theropods stomped around while huge mosasaurs controlled the seas. Even the skies were owned by giants, the pterosaurs. Now, there was this special group of pterosaurs called the Hatzegopteryx. These creatures were known for their super long necks and legs, and they grew really big. The most famous ones probably Quetzalcoatlus. This creature was so huge and impressive that it was named after the Aztec god Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. With a wingspan as wide as a small airplane, up to 36 feet or almost 11 meters, it was thought to be the biggest flying animal of its time. This giant could glide across vast stretches of land with ease, its impressive wings catching the wind like sails. These pterosaurs were famous for their incredible size and long legs, making them look like something straight out of a fantasy book. They likely covered large areas looking for food, ranging from dry lands to coastlines, and could snatch up prey from the ground with their sharp beaks. During the same time Quetzalcoatlus was flying around North America, there was another pterosaur that might have even been bigger. Its name was Hatzegopteryx. But how exactly did we come across such a colossal creature? Discovering and naming. The story of Hatzegopteryx starts in the 1970s in Romania. A group of students found some enormous fossil pieces, a chunk of a skull and a humerus, which is a type of bone in the wing. At first, the experts thought these big bones must have come from a new kind of enormous dinosaur. But after a closer look, they realized these were actually parts of a massive pterosaur. It's kind of crazy, but even with its size, Hatzegopteryx didn't get much attention at first. It took more than 30 years before it was finally given a name. In 2002, they called it Hatzegopteryx thambema, which means Hatzeg Basin winged monster. The name Hatzeg Basin refers to the place where this huge creature used to live. The monster part of its name, Hatzegopteryx thambema, really suits it because of its gigantic proportions. Experts think that fully grown Hatzegopteryx had a wingspan that matched or even exceeded Quetzalcoatlus, which could stretch up to 36 feet wide or almost 11 meters. That's as long as a Cessna 172 airplane. In fact, Hatzegopteryx might have been even bigger. Its humerus was longer than that of Quetzalcoatlus, suggesting it could have had a wingspan of up to 39 feet, or up to 11 meters, making it the largest known pterosaur or bird of any kind. Even if it didn't reach this larger size, Hatzegopteryx was still the heavyweight among its pterosaur relatives. It was built like a tank, with a strong body that stood about 16.5 feet or 5 meters tall, around the height of a giraffe. This combination of height, wingspan, and sturdiness suggests it was much heavier than other giant pterosaurs, including Quetzalcoatlus, though we don't have an exact weight estimate. Thanks to its massive size, Hatzegopteryx is often considered not just the heaviest pterosaur ever, but also the largest land predator in Europe 66 million years ago. Now that we know how Hatzegopteryx was discovered, you might wonder what allowed it to grow larger than any other known flying creature. How it got so big. The secret to Hatzegopteryx's enormous size might lie in its home. Back then, Europe was a series of islands of varying sizes, from small to large, much like an archipelago. One of these was Hatzeg Island, comparable in size to modern-day Ireland, which is surrounded by vast stretches of deep ocean, making it highly isolated. The isolation played a key role. There were no giant theropods on Hatzeg Island and very few predators in general. This lack of competition allowed Hatzegopteryx to dominate as the top predator, growing to immense sizes without the threat of others challenging it. Hatzegopteryx didn't just grow into a colossal body on Hatzeg Island. It also developed a freakishly large skull. This skull measured over 8 feet or 2.4 meters in length, making it one of the biggest of any non-marine animal. Unlike the slender, graceful skulls of most other pterosaurs, Hatzegopteryx's head was robust and sturdy, with large ridges indicating strong muscle attachments. Its neck was also a marvel of strength. It was short and broad, much shorter than you'd expect for a pterosaur. This sturdy neck, reinforced with ridges for muscle attachment, allowed Hatzegopteryx to maneuver its massive skull with ease. Researchers have found that this Frankenstein neck could withstand forces up to 10 times its body weight. Terrifying tactics. This powerful creature, Hatzegopteryx, had such a strong build and massive jaw that scientists think it hunted large animals that it couldn't even swallow whole. This might even include dinosaurs. Because Hatzeg Island was so isolated and had limited resources, the dinosaurs that lived there were smaller than usual. We're talking about mini versions of hadrosaurs and titanosaurs, which could have easily been on the menu for this mighty predator. The way Hatzegopteryx hunted was pretty brutal. It used its huge skull to either stab or smash its prey to death. Imagine this giant flying up and then using its head like a club or spear. This wasn't just about being big and strong. Hatzegopteryx was smart about how it used its size and strength. But Hatzegopteryx wasn't picky. It was what scientists call a terrestrial generalist forager. That means it didn't just stick to the skies. It spent a lot of time on the ground, hunting pretty much anything it could overpower, from small mammals and reptiles to those dwarf dinosaurs. If it moved and Hatzegopteryx could catch it, it was dinner. Now, about those dinosaurs it hunted. Hadrosaurs and titanosaurs on Hatzeg Island were smaller than their cousins elsewhere. Hadrosaurs, often called duck-billed dinosaurs, were plant eaters that moved in herds. Titanosaurs were massive, long-necked dinosaurs, but the ones on Hatzeg Island were downsized due to their environment, making them easier targets for Hatzegopteryx. This pterosaur ruled its territory with no rivals, making it the ultimate predator of its time. Every creature that crossed its path had reason to be wary, making Hatzegopteryx a true nightmare of prehistoric skies and lands. Hatzegopteryx's hunting prowess was unmatched, but how did it navigate its vast territory so effectively? Aerial abilities. While it spent much of its life on land, Hatzegopteryx was fully capable of flying. Its wings were well developed, resembling those of other flying pterosaurs, suggesting that its large size didn't keep it grounded. Despite appearing bulky and heavy, scientists believe it had a clever adaptation to make flight possible: its skull. The bones of its skull had many pits and hollow spaces, making it lighter than it looked, but still strong and flexible. This structure, similar to expanded polystyrene, also known as styrofoam in the US, also appeared in its wings, helping it to take to the skies. But lifting such a massive body off the ground wasn't easy. Hatzegopteryx likely had to launch itself into the air by jumping with its strong limbs. Once airborne, it was once thought to be an exceptional flyer, capable of covering vast distances without stopping. But recent studies suggest otherwise, proposing that due to its size, it could only manage short flights before needing a rest. Hatzegopteryx likely used its ability to fly to scout for hunting spots and navigate efficiently across Hatzeg Island. This mobility was a powerful advantage to the dominant predator of the island. Speaking of Hatzeg Island, what was this ancient world like? Let's take a closer look at the environment that supported such diverse and gigantic life forms. Island ecosystem. The environment of Hatzeg Island was like a dense woodland forest, which made movement on the ground challenging for larger animals, but a perfect spot for a giant like Hatzegopteryx to call home. The pterosaur, the king of the skies, used the thick forests and abundant water to its advantage. Imagine it gliding above the tree canopy, using its eagle eyes to spot any movement below before swooping down to grab its next meal. Its ability to fly made navigating the tricky terrain a breeze, letting it quickly get from one part of the island to another to hunt or escape threats. Now, because Hatzeg Island was cut off from the rest of Europe, it was like a world of its own. This isolation led to some unique animals evolving there, like dwarf dinosaurs, which were smaller versions of the kinds we usually picture. These tiny creatures probably came about because there wasn't enough room or resources to go big. And there weren't many big predators around, except, of course, for Hatzegopteryx. The dense forests not only provided hiding spots for these smaller dinosaurs, but also helped Hatzegopteryx sneak up on them. The landscape, with its rocky outcrops and thick underbrush, shaped how this massive predator hunted, making ambush its strategy of choice rather than chasing down prey. And the creatures that Hatzegopteryx lived with on Hatzeg Island showed just how diverse this place was. Alongside the massive flying predator, there were several types of smaller dinosaurs, like Magiosaurus, Paludatitan, Telmatosaurus, Zalmoxes, Struthiosaurus, and an unidentified theropod. These little guys shared the island with some ancient mammals, too. such as the Elatus and the Isodon, which were kind of like the reptiles we see today. The island was also home to other wildlife, including the barbenlavoy, another small mammal, and several other large pterosaurs from Hatzegopteryx's own Asdarchid family. These relatives had wingspans from about 11.5 to 16.4 feet, or 3.5 to 5 meters. Impressive, sure, but none of them came close to Hatzegopteryx, who was the boss of both the land and the skies. Back then, the climate was a lot warmer than what Europe has today, which made Hatzeg Island like a lush, subtropical paradise. This rich, green place had everything a creature could need, supporting all the different animals living there. For Hatzegopteryx, this was the perfect setup. There was plenty of food and space to be the top predator. But the reign of Hatzegopteryx and the vibrant ecosystem of Hatzeg Island came to an abrupt end. The Cretaceous period closed out with a bang. Literally, a massive asteroid smashed into Earth. This huge impact caused all sorts of disasters like giant waves, widespread fires, and a long, dark winter that happened because dust blocked out the sun. All these events led to the extinction of the dinosaurs and pterosaurs, including Hatzegopteryx, the biggest creature to ever fly. This asteroid impact ended the reign of many of the ancient world's giants and dramatically changed life on Earth forever. Extinction impact. When Hatzegopteryx and other huge pterosaurs disappeared, their ecosystems really shook up. Imagine a world where these top predators were suddenly gone. All the smaller animals they used to hunt had fewer threats, so their numbers probably started to grow. This change would have had a big ripple effect across the whole area. With no Hatzegopteryx around, other predators that were once hiding in the shadows could come into the spotlight. These smaller carnivores might have taken over the role of controlling the population of herbivores and other little creatures, keeping things balanced. They had a chance to thrive and maybe even evolve into new species now that they didn't have to compete with or fear the giant pterosaurs. The plants and smaller animals that were once prey for Hatzegopteryx might have also seen a boost. With fewer predators around, these species could spread out more and change the landscape, which in turn could attract different types of animals to the area. Thanks for taking a journey back in time with us to explore the incredible world of Hatzegopteryx, the largest apex predator of the skies. If you enjoyed learning about this fascinating creature and want to keep up with more amazing discoveries from the world of prehistoric life, don't forget to hit that like button. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time for more exciting explorations into the history of our planet.